This is the HK416A5, one of Tarkov's most famous 5.56 rifles, which has rode the highs of being the best in all the game to being forgotten due to nerfs depending on the wipe. We are revisiting this classic to see how it performs in Tarkov 1.0, to see if it holds onto its fame or it's merely one veterans cling to in hopes of it dominating once again. We are looking at three unique builds, the Ergo, the Laser, and the Meta, which is going to be your next build after watching this. Now, before we get into those three builds, we have to get a baseline to know what we are dealing with. At stock, we have about 71 Ergo, vertical recoil is set at 80, and the fire rate is at 850. Now, veterans would know, but in case you don't, I'll do some translating for you. The higher Ergo means it has crazy fast ADS, which paired with its low weight of being under 4 kg, allows you to stay aimed and locked in for a very long time before your arm stamina drains to zero. The vertical recoil is as it sounds. How much the gun will bounce vertically when firing. 80 is high, as most people when they think laser beam are around the 40 or so mark, so we got some work to do here. How do you unlock this though, so you can even use it, you might be wondering? Well, the easiest option is to buy it from the fleet. Average cost is around 175k depending on the market. However, if you complete Wet Job Part 3 from Peacekeeper, you can buy it for around 153k, which saves you a little bit, but it is harder to do since you have to complete all of the spot tour before you get Wet Job. You can get the lower if you get mechanic to lower to level 4, but at that point, you're just buying it from the fleet. Now, the range test here is with 8.55, and you can see how modest the grouping is and how the recoil is standard without the ammo or parts adjusting it. With the right parts, things change drastically, which you'll see coming up. Before we get into the builds, we need to cover the most important part, and that is ammo, since without bullets, you just have a metal stick. In the range, we're using 8.55 for the sole reason that it does not give any negative debuff to the recoil or accuracy, which all the higher tier ammo does. This should be your baseline, and anything below this here is not worth considering at all, as 8.55 can pen up to level 3 armor, this being the bare minimum to get through those low-end helmets. Now, compare this to the best in this caliber being SSAP with a pen value of 57 that half the time gets through class 6 armor. Anything between these two will suffice, with my go-to being 8.55A1 when I have a good supply. Unless you have the craft for it unlocked via your card needs service quest, then you can make as much as you want. If not, then I usually default to 8.56A1. It's good enough to get through most helmets and can be bought from Peacekeeper lower to level 4. It depends on the size of the mag since there are a lot of options, but I usually have the top 5 to 10 be SSAP or 9.55, with the rest being either of the A1 options, whichever I have more of honestly. Now, moving out of the theory, let's get into shooting testing by looking at our first build. The main focus is to get Ergo as high as we can while still keeping the recoil viable. With this build, we bump Ergo to 92. That's 21 points from base. Then we get the recoil down to 74 even. Not as big of a jump, but this is for the quick close fights, not a long range sniper. Give this a try when you know you'll be going and doing a lot of fighting where you have to clear a lot of small areas. Think of dorms, the reserve underground, or even icebreaker. Now the fun part is that even with switching the stock, both grips, muzzle brake, and adding a big scope, we still stay under 4 kg. Now feel free to rat and hold that angle for 10 minutes as you watch that corner in D2 with this. Now in the range or in the raid, you're clicking head so fast that you shouldn't need a splint for your broken neck. As I was testing, trying to find this build, it was fun to find that perfect balance is snappy and controllable. Even with having the highest recoil in the lineup, it was doable with very short controlled fire, which is where this shines. You're not mag dumping with a 30, or you shouldn't be at least with this. And if you want to hit shots like this, don't forget to subscribe and never miss another breakdown video again. Switching our target to recoil, take a look at this laser build. Our goal with this one is to get as close to that magic 40 mark in vertical recoil as we can. With not tanking our Ergo to where it's not viable as well, we finished with an Ergo of around 44, keeping us safely above 40, but down from the last build by 46 points. Keeping that in mind, after switching the same parts as before, the handguard and the barrel on top of it, we hit 59 vertical recoil. Oddly enough, that's another 21 point difference compared to the baseline. My only gripe with this build is that it's around 4.7 kg, while not being much, still just means your arm stamina drains faster, so just be mindful when getting those long range shots off. Now I wouldn't call this a woods gun, but it does well in customs, the resort area and shoreline, or ground zero even. Think picking off people from a distance as you see them running towards the POI. Great for the first tap and hold strong for the second, but you want to keep them as far as you can and will get barrel stuff if you're not careful. It's a long boy with a big bang. Now in the range, you see it lives up to its laser beam name. Recoil was very easy to control and kept centered, even going full auto if needed. What you're actually going to be using this for is one of the best options currently out there aside from NL. Another complaint for some may be the muzzle flash being kind of annoying. Really small gripe and realistically not going to make much of a difference in your fight unless you're ADS mag dumping. But hey, I mention it so I can avoid the obvious comment saying why it's worse than a stick. Now you might be thinking, what if I want both ergo and recoil? And then for extra fun, throw on a suppressor since we are the hunters here. This is where the meta comes in for that sweet spot. Hitting around 46 ergo with a 70 recoil while even having 60 round mag on it, we get something scary. Now without the drum mag, you jump up to 53 ergo for those that can hit those shots. Compared to what we got at stock with ergo of 71 and vertical recoil of 80, we lost about 15 ergo for the cost of 10 recoil, but we have it suppressed and able to run a drum mag if needed. Good even if you go in with one drum mag as your main, then 30s for the quick switch. With the drum, this really allows you to take a lot more fights while still having that edge. I definitely recommend this for Icebreaker or Labyrinth, since you know you will be doing lots of fighting of heavily armored enemies that pack a hunt. Really spicy, take that Kaban hunting to have enough for his guards, him and the PMCs coming from the other end. Now fair notice that this is right under 6 kg with the drum, about 4.8 without the drum, so you need to be very mindful of your arm stamina when you are holding those angles in Icebreaker. That has gotten me killed a few times when I was first trying it out on the new map. Now this is also our most expensive build at over about 510k rubles, but with running Icebreaker then extracting, it pays for itself fast. Looking at the range, you see that this is an all-rounder that does a little bit of everything from quick shots to mag dumping or whatever you want it to do. Think Swiss Army knife for Tarkov and great for anywhere at all. Now how does the HK stack up and would I run this daily? I would run this for the stats since they compare evenly with the NL545. I opt to swap between the two lately depending on which I have more ammo for. 545 ammo does have an edge in pure stats, but 556 has a certain charm in shooting that I just can't kick. But there are some exceptions to this. Early wipe, it is not worth it as much since without decent mods, M4 is just a better option as easier to get and more cost effective. Once you hit level 15 and unlock the flea, it's a different story. It's still a pricey option, especially since the market isn't saturated yet, but if you got the money, you can kit it very well. Now, late wipe is only slightly higher since you likely have access to the best ammo and have enough of a horde to be able to run this max out. We wanted to see how it compares in the meta, especially after the recent weapon mod changes from BSG, and I say it does pass. This is easily a viable gun as long as you got the money. It's definitely expensive to fine tune when compared to the NL for example, which is cheap. I could throw mud on that to get stats compared to the gold I have to spend with the HK per stat point. Now, let me know, are you still running this or is it NL545 your only love? Keep howling my wolves and I will see you howling for the next one.